Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, it's September and I turned a new leaf. I've been trying the Simply Snackin' chicken flavors. I really enjoyed the black bean and chicken, and also the chicken and cherries. So, stepping out a little bit, trying new stuff. They have tons of great flavors, beef and chicken. And so try chicken this month if you haven't tried it yet. I think you'll be impressed. I really liked it. And I thank them for sponsoring the Symposium for Metabolic Health and also for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. So go and eat some good stuff. Enjoy your day. And thank you again for listening. Hey, everyone. This is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. This is going to be, you have to buckle up for this one, I'm pretty sure. I think, this is a guy that we came across each other on Twitter, and I know he listened to the Low Carb MD podcast, and man, he reached out to me and said, hey, I have kind of a crazy story that you might want to talk about. And I'm very, very compelled. So this is our first time talking. Gene McLeod, welcome, man. Great to have you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Lenskis. Delighted to be here.
Feel free to call me Brian. It's easier. My last name's kind of tough, even for my family
well,
to pronounce.
I'm sorry, are you the BRIAN guy or the RLAN guy?
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I thought you were gonna do it. And my whole life has been the BRYAN. And for my first couple years of marriage, my in-laws would put BRYAN. I'm like, okay, it's an I. But anyway,
that's a Twitter
funny.
Inside joke.
Yeah. On Twitter, I've been knocked off like 3 or 4 times already. It's so crazy. I don't know. Like they don't have anyone else to follow. They just want to harass me. But they put BRLAN Lenskis, or they'll put a Brian Space Lenskis, or what? I mean, man, there's a lot better people to impersonate than me, I guess,
You're a wanted man.
So Gene, tell people your story. This is let's go back to being a kid, and I'll try to interject every now and again, but I really want to hear your story and how it developed to where you are now.
Well, I'll try to keep the real quick minute or two synopsis here. I guess when I was young, I was I was one of those guys that had a little bit dance to the beat of a different drummer, I guess you could say. High school, I was probably known as guy played basketball and probably had the best record collection in the high school. I wasn't really considered a great student, but I was easily in the top 10 of my class, if not the top 5. Just no one knew it. I go on to college at Marshall University, graduate with a physics degree, and I graduate summa cum laude from Marshall. And this is a child from the west end of Huntington, grew up near trailer court trailer parks. Father was illiterate. Mother never, she took geometry in high school, failed it. Didn't take any other advanced math or science course. And so I graduate summa cum laude, physics, Marshall University. There were only 2 people in the whole College of Science that graduated summa. I was one of the 2. Went on to University of Virginia, did very well there, met my wife there, had a successful career in the defense industry up here. I've recently retired from that industry. In parallel, my brother didn't fare so well, and he was my younger brother, and he passed in 2017. And I can tell you when he passed with my good fortune and his misfortune. I did a lot of soul searching. What happened? How did this thing happen? It's very gripping to me, as losing your younger brother like that, and the circumstances that surrounded it. But my parents, we kept soldiering on. Parents just so proud of me, proud of my family, proud of their grandchildren, all that stuff. But no one would have expected the child of, my dad, Richard McLeod, he would have been, Mike Rowe would have considered him a hero. He was the dirty jobs guy that just rolled it up. And even though he was challenged with many things, he was just a tough dude that just did tough work. And he made decent money, not great money, but he made, he got dirty and stuff like that. So I kind of had a self-identity, I guess, and pride that I was kind of like the champion of the working class of Huntington, West Virginia. There were other people from Huntington that went to UVA and Duke and schools like that, but they didn't come from the West End. But I did.
Yeah, you had to be in a bad neighborhood. You said Brett Lloyd was your neighbor, right? And
it was you got to watch out for guys like that. No,
anyone who's listened to this podcast, Brett Lloyd, it's a small world. We have several people that we know together, but Brett Lloyd being one of them. He's a carnivore. He went from depression, anxiety, bipolar, suicidal, all that. And he has an amazing story on, we have it on Life's Best Medicine. He's also been on Low Carb MD. He's doing a lot with Sean Baker in the carnivore community, and just a fantastic guy, just joyful and happy, and coming from humble circumstances, and being like yourself, and being able to achieve a lot. So like growing up, your family must have been looking at you thinking, what in the world is going on? This kid loves school. He's going to classes, and having a lust for education in a illiterate family, basically.
Yeah, very, very strange. But they supported it. They just scratched their heads a lot. So the fast forward, the whole thing, the whole big deal, I'm still pondering, wondering about my brother. I'm starting to get more involved with taking care of my parents and discovering more about the illiteracy, and they're finding out that they really didn't know very much on what to do to take care of bills and things like that. They got a lot of help from my mom's sister. But putting that aside, so in February of 2019, we can talk about the story of how that was discovered, but in February of 2019, while both parents are still living, I discover accidentally through DNA Ancestry.com that my biological father isn't the Mike Rowe hero that I identified myself with. I always identify myself as like, I got here because I was just gritty and determined, like Richard McLeod. Richard McLeod's gritty and determined. I'm gritty and determined. I just applied it a different way, and that's how I got here, right? And you discover in February 2019 that you're not the biological son of that gritty, fantastic man. Your father is a retired Army colonel and bank executive.
Wow. Yeah, that had to be something at that time. Your dad that raised you was how old?
So in 2019, he was 83.
Yeah.
So I protected them from the information. I never allowed the information to get to them. Before Mom passed away in October 2020, and Richard McLeod passed away in almost a year ago today, about a year and a month ago. 2021 in August 10th, 2021. That's when he passed. And then after that, I've been kind of rolling out the story after he passed away.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing, because going back to mom and say, hey mom, what's the deal? Or it's really especially as they're older, and these are secrets that she probably was.
Well, that's the thing. Well, that's the thing. We now that you brought that up, my wife and I have discussed this a lot. We've reviewed a lot of information, and there's no way for knowing for sure. And by 2019, my mother was deep in the throes of dementia. If you asked her, you wouldn't. Yeah, she wasn't making sense of much then. We know for sure Richard McLeod did not know. we're pretty certain, which makes us a little more unique, is that mom didn't know either. And if I showed you pictures of Richard McLeod and me, I would pass as his son.
Wow.
I look a heck of a lot more like my biological father. So I guess you could say my mother had a type. And so I don't know if we touched upon it. I'm in the process of writing a book about this and exploring all this and how this was possible, and how my mother didn't know. In discussing with my wife, it's like, man, my wife would say, Gene, my wife's Kathy. She'd say, Gene, the way she looks at you, the way Richard looks at you, the way you were in the room, she believes you're the son of Richard McLeod. There's just no question in her mind. The way the grandchildren were catered to and stuff like that. He was it. He's the legacy. It was, essentially, the book's going to go. I know in detail how it happened, what happened that night in August of 1962. I want to step you through the whole thing, but suffice it to say, and I've pieced together lots of different things and clues. But essentially, my mom never told me this. Her sister told me this, and this was before I discovered the DNA thing. Her sister died just before, the one who used to take care of him, died 3 weeks before I discovered the DNA. She would have been the person I could go to.
Wow.
But she died 3 weeks before the DNA discovery. And it was her mom's older sister. She was 5 years older, but she let me in on a lot about my mother because I had to start taking care of her. And for one, that's another clue. She would have told me. If my mom knew, my Aunt Marge would have known. And she would have told me, if for any other reason, this Gene, you have to figure out what diseases and stuff in your family history you've got to worry about. She would tell me for that reason alone.
So was it 23andMe because of her saying you got to get checked out, see
No,
going
what I'm saying is when she's giving me the whole debrief,
yes,
because she's getting very sick, and I've got to start taking care of my mother with dementia, and Richard McLeod's failing too, because she used to play that role of taking care of them. She told me everything, and I'll get to this, but she didn't tell me I was the son of another person. And I know my Aunt Marge and how practical she was. She'd say, Gene, you're a big boy now, you're 55 years old or whatever it was at the time. You need to know that your biological father is someone else, and you need to know that to see if there's cancer history, if there's heart disease history. You can't base your medical history on Richard McLeod. He's not your biological.
Do you think she believed that you weren't Richard's son?
No. She believed I was Richard's son. She would have told me if she.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, good. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was catching what you're saying. Right.
Yeah. She was. So she told me everything, and one of the things, everything she knew, and one of the things she told me is about my mom's reliance on anxiety medication all of her life, and she also was an alcoholic for 20 years. She got clean in 1980. The book will all take care of that. But long story short, you mix alcohol with anxiety medication. There was a big fight at a party between mom and dad. Dad left the party. Mom drinks too much. She's on anxiety medication. She gets uninhibited, and she blacks out. And down the road, 8 or 10 weeks or whatever the amount of time it is, she discovers she's pregnant. Richard McLeod and Jane McLeod have been trying to have a kid for 4 years. They were ecstatic.
Wow.
And it goes from there.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, do you have a title to your book yet?
Yes, Intersections.
Awesome.
Because what the book will show is that, for example, I was in the orbit of my paternal grandparents. They saw me all the time. They just didn't know I was their grandchild. That's one example of an intersection. My paternal grandmother actually worked closely with Richard McLeod at the same glass plant. So she's met me, she's seen pictures. She'd say, "Oh, Suge, won't you show me them pictures of the boys of yours?" And Suge would pull that. "Oh, that's a handsome boy right there. Well, that's your grandson. You just don't know
Wow.
it." I was a basketball player. So going over to the grandfather, I played in a rec league in Huntington that was pretty popular, and I love that league. It's a great league. It's actually produced a couple of NBA players, and it was founded by my grandfather. So when the awards are awarded, I'm up there shaking his hand, getting the award for being on the All-Star team, and he doesn't know I'm his first grandson, and I don't know he's my grandfather.
Wow. Yeah, it's just amazing, these intersections, like we were talking about right before we recorded. Steve Bishop, who we had on the podcast, great doc, he's your doc. And, it's just amazing how we could be on the other side of the country and have people in
Yeah,
common that we intersect with, and it's
right.
pretty amazing. And then, just looking at it, when you did the 23andMe, were you just doing it just to see if you had genetic predisposition to these conditions, or?
Well, it was Ancestry, not 23andMe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Ancestry.
And the reason why I did it, the reason I just visited Scotland and visited the castle at Dunvegan, which is the home of the McLeod clan. And it was just interested on, yeah, McLeod signed the book. I'm a McLeod, all this stuff, and come back. Yeah, let's do Ancestry. See how much Scottish is in there, And it turns out there was Scottish on my bio dad, bonus dad side. So you would see Scottish anyway. So that didn't really give much clues. There was a clue there that I missed, is that my DNA from Ancestry shows very little Irish, almost zero Irish. And Richard McLeod's mom was Dorothy Mae Kelly, who came off the boat from Ireland. Yeah, so it should be about 25%, right? There's almost nothing there, but I didn't pick up on that. I was focused on the Scottish, McLeod being a Scottish name. I was focused on the Scott. So that's why I took it. And I took it in like 2016. And it just sat there in a database for 3 years until some lady in Richmond decides to get herself tested and her 2 children tested on Ancestry. And when it came back, there was this guy named Gene McLeod that was very closely related to her children, but not to her. And
Wow.
she started investigating, and it turns out that those 2 children of hers, those teenage children of hers, which I had first thought when she contacted me, it's like back to my brother who passed away in 2017. I thought immediately, okay, Curtis, but it wasn't him.
Oh yeah, exactly right. Like,
he,
oh,
he, he lived quite a life, but it's like, oh, Curtis, no, but no, it wasn't. No, it turns out those 2 children are my niece and nephew.
so when you saw this return, did you think right away, like, wow, this answers questions, or was it more that you didn't want to know the information, or you were happy to have the information? What was your feeling? Because it's hard, because I get that. I've always considered myself the same, as like, okay, maybe I'm not the smartest guy, but I'll grind it out and work hard, and you get that, that blue collar, hardworking, dedicated, like your dad, the dirty jobs. I love those kind of stories that that people just dedicate themselves to something and work hard, and they have integrity, and they do the right thing, and they show up at work and work late and all those kind of things.
Yeah, that was him. That was definitely him. Yeah, it's yeah, it was the way the discovery went. She was pretty, the lady who reached out to me was pretty convinced I was the brother of her ex-husband, but she didn't push it to me that way. She goes, oh, look at this, take a look, what do you think, blah, blah, blah. And the reason why she pretty much knew was because she knew her ex-husband, even though he raised his family in Richmond, Virginia, where I'm living now by coincidence. He was from Huntington, West Virginia. And she saw the pictures, and when she saw my picture on LinkedIn, it's like, guy looks just like I looked like my brother, believe it or not. It just and so we look very much alike, actually, all of us. There's two brothers and a sister discovered there, and and finally she just said, well, take a look. She basically was vetting me to make sure I wasn't a sociopath, but there was only three possibilities when it came down to when you looked at the ancestry, is that her ex-husband is the son of Richard McLeod. Her ex-husband is the son of one of my mother's brothers, my uncles, or I am the son of her ex-husband's father. And the answer is three, and number three, and that by looking at the pictures. When you look at the pictures of me and the two brothers and the sister, we all fit in the same net.
Wow.
So yeah, and a lot of people said, oh, you look like Richard McLeod, but you favor your mother, and your brother, my younger brother who passed in 2017, he really looks a lot like your dad. It's kind of like what when you really look at it closely now, it's like my younger brother, my maternal brother, actually looks more like my mom than I do. He's the one that favors Richard McLeod. I strongly favor the new family in appearance and many other things, quite frankly, the other family.
Yeah, so when you find this information out, so do you immediately start looking for who your dad is, or do you stew on it for a little while? How does that work?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. And you asked the question, I should answer it, is that, the discovery was very bittersweet. It both ripped me apart, not being blood related to Richard McLeod, just a person that I admire. My identity, as it turns out, that I wasn't just all grit and hard work. I had a little secret sauce going. I didn't realize that I had, but it was also a relief that I frustrated and confounded my family a lot, and there was always the implied, what is wrong with you?
Yeah,
and
because you're so different,
yeah, why don't you just straighten, just line up, for goodness sakes? So it was relieving, cathartic, whatever you want to say it, to find out, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm actually I'm just a type they were not aware of. Because when you meet my brothers and sister, and you put us in a room, even though we didn't meet until 2019, it's like we've lived our whole lives together. I just behave like them. It's nature.
It's amazing, because we always talk about nature versus nurture, right? So Richard raising you, you pick up the grit, you pick up certain things just from the example. You learn from example, not that it's biological that it's happening, and obviously you picked up some stuff from your mom, and then your biological dad was there. So just to help people out, so you go on this journey to find your biological dad, and you don't know if he's what kind of person he is. You don't know really a heck of a lot. Maybe the lady who tracked you down, that was your dad, was her ex-husband?
So the lady that tracked me down was married to my one of my paternal brothers.
I got it. Okay, got it.
They've been divorced for about 10 years. So yeah, the word got back to the bonus dad, and we met in August of that year, and we've been close ever since. Because you put us two in a room, and the chemistry it's like there's no awkward. There's not even 10 seconds of awkwardness. We're just cut from the same cloth. It's funny. He's a retired colonel, and a lot of people in my technical career, and you look at me, they kind of, even though I'm not ex-military, people they would call me the colonel because I led teams. I kind of look military, and it just turns out your biological dad was a colonel.
Yeah, because you were in the defense industry, right?
I was, yeah.
And it's amazing how you end up from your humble upbringing to being in DC in the defense industry, and that's kind of it's like in your blood, basically.
Yeah, I guess it was. So yeah, Yeah, there's just so much going on. In the book, I'm chugging along on it, and I've got an outline, I've got a big plan, and it looks like it's going to be over 300 pages. And I'm going to try to and keep it interesting, and I think I can, of showing all these relationships. A couple more things I want to just mention to you that kind of blows your mind is that so both dads are named Richard. There's Richard McLeod and there's Richard Meadows. Both dads are Richard. Richard McLeod would go in life would be referred to as Shug by just about everybody for short for the Sugar Man. So that's dad, and then bonus dad goes by Dick. So it's Dick and Shug, but they're both named Richard. And those two were both basketball players. They played for two different high schools, but they played pickup games. They knew each other. And again, Richard McLeod Shug was good friends with Dick Meadows, bonus dad's mother. So they were, when his mom died in the late 70s, I mean, there's Richard McLeod talking to Dick Meadows at the Rieger funeral home, giving him his condolences, and Dick Meadows asking, how I hear you got Jane, you got a couple boys, and shows him a picture of the two boys. He's looking at his son.
And they never knew.
They never knew.
So your biological dad, right?
Yeah.
When you track him down, is he in denial, or is he saying, let's talk, or what was how was that first meeting you had with him? I mean,
he was in denial for a short period, but that ended soon. I mean, there was no, and yeah, he really did want to meet me. He's down in Pinehurst, North Carolina. And he actually came up, I was still in Northern Virginia at the time. He came up to Richmond, where my sister and brother live, and it's where my daughter lives too. I have a granddaughter here in Richmond. That's the big reason why we're in Richmond. My wife and I retired and be close to the grandchild. But I came down, I was still working, came down to Richmond. He came up from Pinehurst, and we met in August 2019. And like I said, we've been close ever since. We're two peas in a pod. That's and I wanted to give you one more intersection. It didn't quite happen, but in the book, I'm going to put them they were in the same place, but not at the same time. So I'm married to Kathy, been married to her, it'll be 35 years coming up this October. And, I was the son of that gritty blue collar worker, and she was the son of, she was the daughter of a military officer, graduated from honors from Merchant Marine Academy and University of Maryland. And he was an intelligence guy after he 20 years Navy, retired. And in the late 60s, in 1969, he was at what's called the MACV headquarters in Saigon, and he got a Bronze Star for his service there. And that was always the thing. I was the working class guy, and she was the the Eccles Scholar at UVA, the straight A student in Herndon High School, blah blah blah, and the daughter of a Navy officer. Yeah, cool. We're from two very different backgrounds, right? But we somehow managed to find each other and stuff. And then you learn in 2019 that, well, wait a minute, Gene's biological father was also in Saigon, was also at MACV, and also got a Bronze Star at the same darn place. Now they missed each other. Actually, in real life, they missed each other by a month. Dick Meadows leaves 1 month before Kathy's father arrives. But in the book, it's a work of fiction based on a true story, but I'm going to put them together at MACV and Saigon at the same time as another intersection. And then, of course, I'll play with the story a little bit and have Dick Meadows send a wedding gift to his old friend's daughter's wedding, not knowing he's sending a wedding gift to his son.
Such a what a wild story. It's just such a
you
wild
can do so
story.
much. You can do so much with this, and I will. I'm both my paternal brother who passed away in 2017, and maternal brother who passed away in 2017, and my paternal brother who was married to the woman that discovered this. They were both in Germany in the army in the early 90s during Desert Storm. So they could have met each other Well, in the book they are. And
Wow.
remember when I told you about, it's like, what, Gene, what's going on with you? Why are you, he's going to have the same issues with my paternal brother. He's going to pick up on there's something about this guy. I've seen it before. I don't know quite what
Yeah,
this
isn't
is.
that bizarre? Now,
Yeah.
with your paternal brothers and sisters, is it you connect like that too? Was it weird for them thinking, who's this guy coming in, or were they welcoming right away? Or was it an odd?
Well, of course it's weird starting, but I can tell you the first time but the short answer is that no, I just fit right in. You put me in. I mean, when I first met my sister in March of 2019, we met at a coffee shop, and you could tell there was maybe a little bit of oh my God going on at first, but I can tell you within 5 minutes, probably within 3 minutes, the conversation was just clicking, and within 10 minutes, we're finishing each other's sentences. I mean, yeah, and it was apparent to both of us. That's the first one I met was my sister. It was obvious to both of us right off there. It's just like, yeah, I mean, he's one of us. There's you can't. He's cut from the same cloth. We're both strangers and know each other inside and out at the same time.
What are some weird quirks or weird things that you would say, wow, like I see this in them and they see it in me, even though you were not raised, because you're in your 50s by the time you meet them.
Mhm.
I mean, were there certain mannerisms or jokes or sense of humor, certain things that you go, man, there's no doubt that we're connected that way.
Well, we're all smart Alex, that's for sure. It's a cadence of the voice and a rhythm, which is hard to describe with words. The way we're quick-witted and turn things around, and the it would be the rhythm and the delivery of the line is very similar, of how we do it, how we set up and deliver when we're trying to make an amusing point, for example. That's very similar. You know, and then when I met that same day, my sister took me over to meet my younger brother, who was born in 1970. I'm 7 years older than he is, and he's an artist at Virginia Commonwealth University. That's where he got his degree. They got a big art program there. Turns out my daughter also art degree from Virginia Commonwealth University. So
Wow.
there's another wild one. But when I first met my brother, he was expecting he's coming over, going to meet him, and he's an artist and he does like portraits, faces. And his first word to me when I walked to the room, and he goes, and Angie said to Mark, she goes, well, here he is. And he looked at me, and the first thing he said was, whoa, because he could see my face, and he's an artist, and he knows what that face is. It's his.
Wow.
For the most part, 70% correlated. He knows. It's like, whoa, the bone structure, the way the eyes are. So no, it really, there was no warming up to me, really. It was, you just put me in a room and it's like, okay, I get it. Both of us, that you put us, it's the same thing.
So
I really heavily favored my biological father from a DNA standpoint.
and was your biological father still married to their mother?
Their mother, I mean, fortunately, I mean, I don't want to make it sound, their mother passed away in the mid-90s.
Okay. So she never knew either.
So she never knew. The timing was amazing because my brother Curtis never knew. He passed away in 2017. Their mother never knew. She passed away in the 90s. I was able to protect my parents from the information. I don't know how my maternal brother would have took it. Maybe good, maybe not so good. He had some challenges in his life, and sometimes you just never knew with Curtis. Is he going to be angry about that, or is he going to be cool with it? But he passed away 2 years before the discovery, or a year and a half.
Yeah, and I think this is something we're gonna see a lot more of. I was telling you, I was just with a longtime friend, and her and her sister are a lot different than each other, and they found out, through Ancestry or 23andMe, that's like, oh, we have a different dad, and it's wow, these are things we never really, there was always innuendos or say, gosh, this kid's a lot different than his brothers or whatever. But, now things are coming up of, like people don't know
Well,
that their dad was, that
so
they
here's,
got mom pregnant in Vietnam, and,
yep.
all those kind of things are coming out, these kind of wild stories.
Yeah, and here's what I've done. I've been doing a lot of research. I've been working on the book since March. And it's going to take me till I think the end of February to get the complete first draft written, but I'm doing a lot of research about the time and place. And I don't know if you're familiar with the sexologist named Kinsey. Are you
Oh,
familiar with
sure.
Kinsey? Okay.
Oh, Kinsey report. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at the Kinsey stuff, and I forgot what the numbers are. I'm probably going to get them not exactly right, but it's almost like back in the late 50s, and the event was August 1962, so not that far. Kinsey had passed away by then. But he estimated in the US at the time, it wasn't Ozzie and Harriet at all. It had the appearance of Ozzie and Harriet, but infidelity was widespread. And he estimated, I think, 25% of married women and 40% of married men. So all these discoveries are going because there was it was almost like Fight Club back then. It's like the first rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club. And that's the way they did. They were a bit feral, but they didn't. I think there's a lot of, I think this is hypothesis now, just so much exuberance and economic boom after World War II that it just, I think it was, let's have a party. So it was more like Mad Men
Well, that
than
was
it
60s
was.
and 70s too, right? It was kind
Well,
of
but
pre-love and all
they were
that.
more open about it in the 60s and 70s. Is what I'm saying is in the 50s,
Yeah.
they were doing it. It's like Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club, right? Yeah, we don't
Yeah, so
talk
you
about
never
this.
know how many people, like, when they figure out, like, oh, you're not actually, we're half brothers and sisters, and it's pretty amazing. And it's, well, these days now, everyone's got half brothers and sisters, kind of, it's not unusual. But back then, your story going that far
Right.
back, and then
And some people from my age are saying there's no way my parents were Ozzie and Harriet. And what I'm discovering through Kinsey is like, nah, they weren't. They acted like Ozzie and Harriet. A lot of, I mean, certainly there were good families that didn't get into that, but more than you think did.
yeah.
That's just what it is. So yeah, I mean, Dick Meadows, my bonus dad, was married at the time too. My mother was married, he was married. It was just a moment on that one night. It's like everything lined up.
Intersection. Intersection.
It was a triple bank shot on a pool table. Yeah, it was a trick shot.
Wow.
Off this end, caromed off that, and everything would have had to line up for that to happen, and it just did that night.
And
Anyway.
and after that, did your mom and him ever have
No,
discussions or anything?
he was soon gone in the military. He
Wow.
leaves town like a couple months later. He doesn't even, she's not even showing by the time he leaves.
And they were roughly the same age?
Yeah.
Wow, pretty amazing. It's
Yeah, so
pretty
he
crazy.
leaves Huntington in a couple. Bonus dad leaves Huntington in a couple months, and he's gone for good. Yeah, he has no idea. He's gone.
Yeah, and he goes on with his life, and there you go.
Yeah, he's in South Carolina. When I'm born, he's in South Carolina.
Yeah, and it's amazing. His whole life, he has no idea. So 50 some years later, you find this out. It's
Yeah,
amazing. Just think if you never took the test, if you never, there's certain how everything also had to intersect that way that you actually,
yeah. Oh yeah. That was luck. That was luck too. That I took it at Ancestry because I'd been to the castle at Dunvegan, and the fact that this lady in Richmond decides to use Ancestry, not 23andMe, because on 23andMe you're not going to find me. But she used Ancestry for whatever reason, and and then it was a person who had a curious enough mind that says, I can't let this go. I can't just, I got to find this. And I'm very glad she reached out to me. I mean, it's all good. It's in the end, it's all addition and no subtraction. It's just for me, it's just, and you know, in the context of losing your only, what you thought was your only brother, and going through all that, and I was very, my parents were pretty much incompetent by the time he got very sick, and you know, I'm the guy that had to say, time to stop, doctors. It's, you got to let him go. I had to be the person to do that. And then you walk away from that and you say to yourself, well, it's just you now.
Yeah, you've lost your entire family. You think you're on your own. Now you realize, oh my goodness, I have, you know,
So yeah, that is like, my
nephews and
God.
nieces and all this on the other side. And
Yeah,
it's like, wow.
I got two brothers and I mean, yeah, how, who gets that? You thought you've lost everything. And then all of a sudden, oh, you got more. You're good. You got plenty of family. They're waiting for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it had to be just so odd getting together with everyone, and they're all together and they all know each other and everything. And you're the new kid coming in your 50s, you know, and building relationship. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I tell you, Brian, when we get together in a room, I'm not the new guy. I'm telling you, I'm not the new guy. I'm just one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so, the chemistry is so, the nature force of that is it, you know, I mean, there's stuff in their past that I don't know and they've got to tell me about. There's that, of course. But as far as, you know, locking into the conversation and the chemistry, no, there's none of that. I mean, I'm just as much them as any of them.
And so how did
That's
your wife deal with it? Was this so weird for her and her family? Like now they have new in-laws and all that?
um oh, she's pretty cool. She's pretty cool with it. When I first informed I have a daughter and a son. So my daughter is she's 31 and my son's 27. But so this was 3 years ago. I guess she was 28 or about to be 28. Um, uh, uh, she um, she sent a text. You know, we sat on it for a while, and then we informed my daughter Kelly and son Eric about what was going on. And the text back from my daughter was I'm losing my damn mind.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she was so close to her papaw, and that was her grandfather, and there was just no doubt. And that's it's actually this other guy. Boy, and the pictures of her with him and Eric with him is they're just extraordinary. But yeah, it was so my wife was pretty level with it. My kids had, because that was their grandpa. I mean, that was their papaw.
Yeah.
That was, I think it was a little more for them.
Yeah, it's a big switch in life to realize, oh my goodness, I'm not
That,
biologically, that's not my grandpa, you know,
yeah,
biologically.
yeah, they were very close to him.
And then when your wife met your biological dad, was she's like seeing the similarities and all that kind of stuff was
Oh my goodness, I'll you know, offline after we're over here, I might send you some pictures. You'll see what's going on there. Yeah, it's pretty freaky. The whole thing's pretty freaky.
yeah, it's
And
pretty
when and you know, when the discovery in February 2019 is, as the lady was working with me and trying to ease me into it, she, at the very end of it, she says, okay, won't you, we've talked this much, why don't you now, I will reveal the identity of these people now. I don't think you are a sociopath. I think I've vetted you properly. Take a look at the pictures, tell me what you think. And I'm going through the pictures and saying to myself, oh boy, this might be option number 3 that we talked about earlier, might very well be true. And I'm texting my wife as she's at work, and I'm texting her. So I'm going through the pictures. Then there's this one picture of Dick Meadows, bonus dad, dribbling a basketball in his 20s. And the expression on his face and the posture of his body and the look on the face and everything like that. And I looked at that picture and I attached it to the text, and the message to my wife said, this is over. This is my biological dad. There's no way this man could not be my biological. That is me dribbling that basketball.
that is just amazing.
So that's exactly, that face is exactly the face I make when I'm in competition. You know, so anyway, yeah, it's a gorgeous thing. So yeah. So anyway, that's
Wild stuff.
yeah, very
So
very
how
wild.
so tell me about a little bit about your low carb stuff. I know it's not as
Okay.
exciting as Brett Lloyd's stuff, but yeah, how did so because that kind of is what connected us.
It did. Yep, it sure did. I was first diagnosed type 2 diabetes in 1996. 1996.
Wow.
I basically my son was born in 95, my youngest, and I said, okay, I haven't had a physical since high school. I'm 33 years old in 96, and let's just get a baseline here, and let's start being an adult. You got dependents now. You gotta think about some
Yeah, kids
things.
make us think that way, right?
Yep.
You
Yeah.
got to
It's
be
time.
around for a little while to take care of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. We gotta think about this a little harder. And in 1996, I was a strong athlete, as was my bonus dad, very strong athlete. He actually played a year or two of basketball for Marshall in college. Do you ever heard of Hal Greer, the NBA Hall of Famer?
No,
Played
I
for the
don't know
six,
how Greer.
played with the Sixers with Wilt Chamberlain.
All right.
Won some one or two NBA championships. Well, he was a teammate of Hal Greer at Marshall.
Wow.
But anyway, um, um, in 1996, I can tell you, Brian, at that age, I was a little heavier than I am now. I'm 6', 6'1" in shoes, maybe 180 pounds in 96. I'm 170 now. I could dunk a volleyball. I could run 10 miles in 70 minutes. I could bench press 300 pounds. I could make any public high school team in Fairfax County, suburbs of DC. That's a strong basketball program. I was a good ball player, 33, still good. Going to the doctor's office, and like, he did good that the doctor actually did blood work and checked fasting blood glucose. A lot of doctors would look at me, wouldn't even check that back then.
Even now.
Even now.
Even now, trust me, I pick up diabetes a lot from people that their doctor goes, "You're fine. You don't need to have your sugars checked." I was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, you do."
I presented as this very muscular athlete, just in for a checkup, and he did check it, and my fasting blood glucose was 130. That's type 2 diabetes.
Mhm.
And you could tell he had never seen anything like this before. I was confused. And he was, yeah, he's a good doctor. He just like he didn't know what to think of it. The first thing I did was, okay, they call it sugar diabetes, or back in Huntington, West Virginia, back in the day, it wasn't diabetes, it was sugar diabetes, right? So why don't we just not drink 4 cans of Coke a day and see what happens? let's just knock off a little bit of sugar there, and of course, trying to quit 4 cans of Coke a day is like, the first 2 or 3 weeks was like an axe was like in the middle, walking around with an axe in the middle of my forehead. But I did it because I'm a gritty guy like Richard McLeod. I'll do it. Sure enough, I got into pre-diabetes with still eating ice cream and bread and all the bad stuff that we know now, just take the 4 cans of Coke a day out. I went down from 130 to 110, 105 or something like that. So good enough. You're pre-diabetic now. Move on. But I'm walking away from that. It's like, how did this happen? I mean, how am I diabetic? I mean, it turns out bonus dad had some issues with that too. But anyway, I become a player. But long story short on that, it took many years. I kept modifying my diet. I couldn't get out of pre-diabetes, and I'd creep up, I'd throw some more things off. Couldn't get out of pre-diabetes. I want out of pre-diabetes. I want out of that thing, man. And I was thinking that, 20 years ago. I don't think a lot of people. I was taking it serious. And in 2016, I first hear Vinny Tortorich on a trip to visit my parents to take care of them, and he was on Adam Carolla's show. And I said, "Oh, yeah, this guy's saying some things I've never really thought about, like like brown rice it could cause your blood sugar to go up. I thought that was, heart healthy, all that stuff. We don't have to talk about that. But yeah, I was still eating brown rice. I was still eating steel cut oatmeal, all this stuff. And I was creeping up again, still pre-diabetic, not diabetic, but creeping up. And it's like, I need to stop this. What am I doing wrong?
And you've been active your whole life too, it sounds like.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah,
I'm
always an athlete.
always very, very active. I mean, even I would say even in 2016, I could still run 10 miles in 75 minutes. I mean, I was, and actually I would typically win 5Ks in my age group when I ran them. But, I could run sub 7-minute miles if I'm doing only 5K. I was, well, that's the genes from Meadows. I mean, he was a track star. So I listened to Vinny, followed that guy, and very soon after following Vinny kind of vectored me to Nina Teicholz. And okay, let me see about this. And I got that book and I read it, and it's just like, it's almost like the Tim Noakes moment when he read the paper from Westman and those guys, and in like 2 hours, he just like what the hell was I doing? With wasn't 2 hours with me and Teicholz, but it wasn't long before I was reading it and I'm shaking my head and said, that's what's going on. I mean, I know the answer now. I mean, thank you for just, giving me a little, yeah, of course. And I stopped the oats and the brown rice and the black beans and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And next time I'm out of prediabetes, and I've been pretty much out of prediabetes since then. So, and where I think I sit on the spectrum, and you're a doctor, you know the whole spectrum, but my model of what's going on with Gene, I think I am that type like Mark Cucuzella. I'm a type 1.5. I have a pancreas that makes insulin, but it doesn't make a lot. So if I hit it with a big load, it's just going to only go so far and say, you're on your own.
Yeah, and this is why we check insulin levels, because you can't really tell. And so sometimes you have to see. I have some people, they just don't make enough insulin. Other people, they make a ton of insulin, but it's not effective anymore. So it's just figuring out where you are on the spectrum. Either way, putting on muscle and cutting down the carbs, all those things, staying active, watching the stress, getting enough sleep, all these kind of things do help in that situation. So the treatment's the same, but
yeah. So I'm insulin sensitive. But I can go into diabetes while still being insulin sensitive.
Exactly, because you don't make enough insulin. It's like, you can't, if you put too much of a load, you just can't deal with it. And there's a lot of people in that situation that just don't realize it.
I think I'm less 1.5-ish than Dr. Cucuzella is. I think he says he does 20 grams. I think I can do more than that, but I'll say this, which could be perfectly good advice for other people managing, putting their type 2 diabetes in remission and all that stuff. But the suggestions I see sometimes by Naaman and Saladino, and they're eating fruit, and this is good, and this is still paleo, and higher protein, lots of protein. So like, I don't think it works for the 1.5. Actually, I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is there's not a one size fits all. That's what I'm learning. Some people have to put them on a higher fat. Some people have to get taper down things. We got to get some muscle mass on them. And, if you're, there's certain combinations that are just kind of tough. A guy like you, if you were vegan, for instance, it would be tough, because if you start losing muscle mass and that's your insulin sensitivity, and you start getting a little insulin resistant, then you can get yourself into big trouble.
Spiral.
So, you look at all those things, and, it's funny, intersections. Vinny was at a conference that I was at, and people were freaking out, excited that this Hollywood guy was here. And I'm like, I really don't care. I'm a blue collar guy, so I really don't mesh well with these kind of guys. And then I'm walking down the hallway and someone say, "Hey, Brian, have you met Vinny yet?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I haven't. Hi, nice to meet you." And then Vinny had a drink or two maybe. And we had a really good conversation. He goes, "I'm going to get you on the podcast. I'm going to do that." And I go, "Okay, yeah, or whatever." And then the next day, maybe a week later, he calls me, "Hey, are you going to come on my podcast?" Okay. But it's just funny how you intersect with people that you normally wouldn't talk to, and Mark Cucuzella is a great guy. And Nina Teicholz is, fantastic. And so it is kind of cool how all these people, their calling in life has impacted you.
Yeah. And Vinny's just right up the road from me, in the Charlottesville area.
Yeah.
Now I used to be out in Hollywood, but now he's in the Charlottesville area. So yeah, I'm still working on getting us two together. You know, I'm trying to get him to come out and see my rock band sometime. But I gotta get him down to Richmond.
Well, let's
Northern
give a
Virginia.
plug for your rock band too while we got you here.
And you know, so we typically play. I'm from Northern Virginia, so our gigs are up there. And he's just said, man, it's just a little out of reach for me. So I'm trying to get us down to Richmond, but yeah, the whole yeah, that's a while. You know, my life's been full of surprises.
What kind of music do you guys play? Do you guys do cover band stuff or
Yeah,
your own stuff?
we are a cover band, and we do the big arena rock hits. We're the band that does Journey and Def Leppard and Bon Jovi
Awesome.
and AC/DC and Foreigner.
Well, maybe we get Brett Lloyd up to play with you guys.
Yeah. Brett's a guitar player. I know that. Yeah, we're
So
both
great.
Now, Brett's been music all of his life. The music for me came very late. You know, I was too busy playing basketball, and then I was too busy raising a family, and I'm in a band now with it's 5 of us, and 4 of them were touring musicians, and then one engineering nerd that's on lead vocals. Yeah, my background in music before joining them was I had a really good album collection. You know, I know these guys have been to the show, recorded albums, toured with big bands, all that kind of stuff. So they're really top-rate musicians. They kind of jokingly say to me, because I'm 59, it's like you're like the last man standing. I mean, there's guys our age can't sing Journey anymore, but you can. You kind of saved yourself. You know, you didn't live the lifestyles we did back in the day. There's singers still around that we work with, but they can't do it anymore. They're out of gas.
Yeah, it's that healthy lifestyle, you know, that allows you
Yeah,
to keep going. You know, look at some of these guys. I mean, they're still going. The Rolling
there's
Stones and Mick Jagger and all those. You think, wow, these guys have been
there's
a
some
lot of miles on them.
yeah. Jagger surprised me for sure. But a lot of the great voices, you know, Robert Plant's not the same guy that was in Zeppelin in the 70s. He can still sing, but he's not that guy anymore. There's a lot of examples of that. There's a few of them that go deep. Kenny Loggins is just starting to lose his voice, but he was still pretty much in full voice around his 70th birthday. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's funny. We saw Elton John and I watched him waddle out onto the stage. I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be brutal. And then he starts singing. He's just the same guy, and you go, wow, this is like you forget that he's aged, you know. And
Yeah,
so certain people, you know, and just
yeah,
I went and saw the
he's an
Eagles, and
amazing
I was
guy.
like, wow, it's pretty amazing. Some of these guys that like Joe Walsh is still
He's
jamming, you
still,
know. And
yeah, he's still banging it out. Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
pretty amazing stuff. So now I got to ask you, after all this, you know, since this is life's best medicine, what's life's best medicine? Where did you go to when things were hard? What did you lean on? What keeps you going? What life wisdom do you have to share with people?
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, for whatever reason, going back to when I was a very little boy, when a lot around me, it'll be covered in the book, would make some people do otherwise, is I was realistic, but I was also an optimist. I wake up in the morning optimistic. Even when things are going wrong, we can fix those or we can improve those. I'm that kind of guy. I don't wake up in the morning with dread and oh no. I think that's the contrast between me and my maternal brother. Is I don't think he was an optimist. He was kind of a fatalist. The system's rigged. Why would you even work at this? I think he had a lot. Well, I know he had a lot more capability than what he did, but he was just why, you know, this it's rigged. And you know, the rich people get everything, we get nothing. They're just going to and like, you know, and he was correct in some ways, but it's like, but you can still, the optimist says you can still make it better, you know, and so what gets me going is I'm an optimist, and when you look at everything from you know, when I wake up in the morning, I'm writing a book, I play in a rock band, I get to play more golf now than I've ever had to play in my life. I'm getting pretty good at the game finally. And you put that with your optimism. I mean, it's like every day Saturday for me now. It's sleeping well, all that good stuff. And you know, and finally, you know, the fact that I'm here is a minor miracle. Just and realizing every day that you are one of the luckiest people who have ever walked the planet. I sincerely believe that. That wasn't all my life, but since the discovery in 2019, that's the takeaway. It's like, man, you just shake your head and say, you are one lucky son of a gun. And it isn't like I take that for granted. Every day I wake up thinking, you are one lucky son of a gun. There you go.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's, I mean, we've been through such a negative time, and you know, people think, you know, like the system's rigged against you. And then I always think about that. You know, I look at Ben Carson, you know, some people that they've overcome everything and they just kept plugging along, and then they have success in life. You know, there's so many people like that, that everything was against them, and they didn't fold the tent and say, okay, I can never get ahead. I'm going to figure it out for me what works, and not just because it didn't work for other people. And I have disadvantages. You grow up poor, you grow up in a situation where education may not be valued or whatever. You kind of, you get that grit. You know, I come from a family, no one was a doctor in my family. The history of my family, I don't think anyone was ever a doctor. And I was like, you know, I'll work hard and see, maybe I won't get it, maybe I will, you know, but I'm going to work my hardest and not regret it. You know, I think that
Right.
grit you talked about, you know, having some natural talent maybe, but really just getting up every day and saying, okay, I'm not going to give up today. I'm going to just keep striving forward. I'm going to learn music as I get a little bit older. I'm going to be out doing things and reaching out to the family, and making these connections. And I think it's so important that there's a lot of people out here listening that have kind of given up, that they think, oh, I'll never, you know, I'll never reverse my diabetes. Just think about you in that, from that, saying you'd be full-blown diabetic. Who knows if you have an amputation by now if you don't stop drinking the sodas, right? And you
Yep.
think, you know,
Absolutely. Oh God, I don't think I would be here, period. Forget amputation. I think of the fact that that was 25 years ago or whatever it was. I mean, that's a little bit of a minor miracle too, that how many people diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 1996 are still around. It's probably less than half. You know, so I lost my father-in-law to type 2 diabetes. You know, so I saw the movie. But yeah, yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get across in the book is the optimism. It might even, I didn't think it was irrational. In my head, I thought, no, I can do this. I don't care what the environment is saying, and I don't care what people tell me. I can do this. I'm pretty sure I can do this. Um, and that served me well. And that you'll see my character in the book. He's, you know, a lot of stuff going on, and but there's pretty much I can do this. It's not easy right now, but I can do this.
yeah, one step at a time. One thing, you get, some of us have a longer journey than others, and you know, maybe have a harder road to walk, but man, at the end it's worth it. You know, I think, you know,
It
just
is.
you protecting your family, protect your mom and dad, you know, not bringing out stuff you don't need to, and causing more conflict, and you know, all those things, and how it, you know, these intersections. And so everyone read this book, Intersections, when it comes out. You have to, Gene, we'll have to do a little update when it actually does come
Oh,
out.
absolutely. I'd be happy to. I think I'm such a program manager, technical leader guy. Everything's got to have a schedule. So I'm hoping to get it published early in 2024. I need to finish the draft. I need good editors on this thing. We might need to rewrite a few things to make sure it's making sense to people, and then the whole publication thing. So I'm thinking working through all that. Still, you know, I'm just, you know, I've just done a draft of about a third of the book right now, but I'm thinking early 2024.
All right, man, get back to writing.
Okay, thank you so
Hey,
much, Brian.
and I'm glad we intersected. I'm glad that we got to connect. Thanks for reaching out. And you know, I love everything you're talking about on Twitter. We're like-minded in a lot of ways, and
Yes, we
we have a lot
are.
of friends in common. And you know, it's just great to hear the stories and the backstories and all that. So hey, everyone, this is good wisdom here. You know, just keep plugging along one step at a time. It may not be perfect right now, but keep that good attitude. You know, you never know what life has in store. And you know, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and thank you for listening. Gene, thank you for joining me, man.
Oh, man, this was quite a life experience. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're one of my heroes, man. You know,
Uh-oh, man.
oh,
You're in
you
trouble.
are. Oh, you're a leader in the space. I mean, I know you're a humble guy, but you're what you're doing, and I know I don't have to motivate you, but you know what you and Tro and other people are doing. I mean, it's God's work. I try to do my part on a smaller scale. You know, you guys got a big national audience on Facebook. I've got kind of an audience too, and I'm listening to you guys, and I'm kind of spoon feeding them this stuff. And I come
Awesome.
from Huntington, West Virginia. That's like, man, that's type 2 diabetes central.
Yeah, maybe we do a low carb conference down there one of these days. We get down there and share the gospel with them.
So all my friends from my past are I've got their ear. So
Awesome.
but yeah, but thank you so much. And yeah, yeah, maybe a year from now or whenever I'm getting close to this thing, yeah, this will be the first place I'll run to, man.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thank
Have
you
a
very
great
much.
week.
Have a great week. Thank you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information. And hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.